Hello friends, welcome back. Today we are going to discuss about budgeting concepts or introduction to budgets. So what is a budget? A budget is a financial plan. Once we have strategic plan or a growth plan or a plan for next year, we have to convert that into a financial plan. That plan what we called as budget. The planning is one of the most important steps in the budgeting process. First, we have to understand what are the key limitations of planning before moving into budget. The first one, time and cost pressure. We know that planning will consume lot of time and the cost. Again, once a manager focused on the planning, it will interrupt their day-to-day activities as well, because normally they are doing the day-to-day activities. Once he is focusing on the planning, it can interrupt their day-to-day activities. The second thing, risk of rigidity. Once you planned something for the next year or next period, suddenly a new market change came. Suppose you have a fixed plan in your mind, maybe you will have a rigidity or you have a resistance to capture that new market opportunities. The third limitation is flawed projections. Projections are prone to error. Gap from economic side can render static profit plan completely unworkable. Again, is there any gap from the economic side? It can render the static project plan, your profit plan can be completely unworkable. These are the key limitations of planning process. So keep in this mind before we are moving into budgeting. Now, let's move into budgeting framework. What is the step or what are the process framework has to be included in the budgeting process? The first one is planning. The first process in the budgeting is to map the goal and identify the market risk and the potential. If you have a non-qualitative plan or develop a qualitative plan in advance before you are developing in a budget. Second step is budgeting. Once you have a plan, you have to convert that plan into a profit blueprint or in a financial plan. That plan what we called as budget. The third step is monitor. Once you develop a budget, you have to regularly monitor your budget progress with your actual performance. Suppose you set a budget of 1 million sales for next year. So you have to evaluate each month if it is progressing to 1 million, and at the same time you set a cost target for a maintenance cost. Suppose you set a target cost for maintenance. Each month or periodically you have to evaluate that target cost with your actual cost, whether it is inflated cost or is there any gap between the actual performance and the expected performance. So the fourth step is to improve. Once you see that variance, you have to take action to improve that performance. Otherwise, this comparison will not make any sense, right? Once you analyze the variance, you have to try to improve your performance and try to bridge this gap between as low as possible, or try to match that with your actual budget. These are the key steps in the budgeting process we identified now: planning, then budgeting, then monitoring and improving. Now, let's move into core functions, budgeting functions, how the budgeting is supporting the operations. The first one is coordination and communication. Suppose once you developed a budget, you have a plan to sell the product. You have a plan that in terms of quantity and in terms of qualities. That has to be communicated with your production department. Hey production department, this is my plan to sell in next period. So produce this. So this is a communication. Again, there will be a coordination will automatically happen between the production department and the sales department. This is coordination and communication. Then the performance standardizations. once we developed a budget, this budget can be set as a standard for our performance. This budget you can use as a benchmark or as a standard for your performance. You can periodically compare your performance with this standard to see is there any variance and to take the corrective action if it is required. Third function is personal motivations. Once you set a sales budget, then this sales budget has to be allocated to each sales department, and each sales department or each sales manager has to be allocated to each sales executives. So each person should know, or each person know what is their exact duty and what company is expecting from, what is company expectation from them. So once they know their target and the expectation from them, they will become more motivated. Again, this is not only in the case of sales, in the case of expense as well. Suppose I have a maintenance budget for this month 100,000. So this I can communicate with my maintenance department. So they know what is their target or what is their quota for this particular period. So that it will have a control, it will give a control to the maintenance department on their spending. Then the resources allocation. Suppose once you set a budget, you know what is your priorities and what are your preferences and what activities are going to make you more profit. So based on that, you can allocate more resources in terms of your money, in terms of your manpower, in terms of your effort into that particular process, and which will help you to improve the overall business performance. Then the operational oversight. Once you set a budget, you can compare your actual result with your budget, and which will give an oversight how the activities or operations progressing in the company, whether it is on as per the budgeted or is there any deviation. So which will give an operational oversight to the management. Then the sixth function is progress verification. Again, once you set a budget, you can verify your progress periodically to see how we are progressing toward our goals or towards our budget. These are the key 6 core functions which how the management is supporting the business operations. Now we are moving into under capacity constraints. How we have to optimize the activities or optimize the efficiency during under capacity constraints. Sometimes the business or company may have limited capacity to produce a product. Suppose they have a total demand of 100,000 pieces, but they have a capacity to produce only 80,000 pieces. This can happen due to capacity constraints. In this case, this business cannot enjoy or cannot get all this 100,000 business. So in this case, the company has to evaluate this 100,000 business, and they have to allocate this 80,000 available capacity to most profitable value adding sales out of this 100,000. Let's move into example. Suppose a company operating at 100% capacity. However, it faces a fixed short-run bottleneck constraints. One of its process or calibration chamber is rigidly limited to 2,400 total operational hours for a month. Fixed costs stay perfectly identical across both the configurations. So here you have two options to produce, product X and product Y. The details are already given. Your unit selling price is 800 for product X, and for product Y it is 1100. Then your variable production cost is 400 for product X and 500 for product Y, and your unit product contribution margin it is 400. That means 800 minus 400 is 400 for product X and 600 for product Y. Suppose if you are looking into product wise, this product is generating more contribution margin. If you are looking into unit by product, this product is producing or this product is contributing more contribution margin per unit. But there is a constraint in this case. That means what is your constraint? It is 2400 total operational hours only available for this month, for a month. For product X, you need 4 hours, and for product Y, you need 8 hours per unit. So, in this case, if you produce product X, your contribution margin per operational hours is $100 per hour. Again, if you produce product Y, your contribution margin per unit of per hour is $75 per hour only. How you calculated this? Per unit you will get 400 in product X, and to produce that unit you need 4 hours. So, which means 100 hours, $100 per 1 hour, that is your contribution margin in product X. At the same time, when you are moving to product Y, your contribution margin per unit is 600 and you need 8 hours to produce 1 unit. So, it is 75. So, if you are looking only into product, you can see that product X is more profitable, but if you are considering the resource constraints or your capacity constraints, you can see that product X, just a correction. If you are looking into only production margin or product margin, product Y is, you can see that product Y is more profitable because it is generating $600 per product and product X is only 400. But if you consider the production constraints or the capacity constraints, you can see that product X is more profitable because it is generating $100 per hour, and when it comes to product Y, it is generating only $75 per hour. So, once you have a capacity constraints, you have to consider that capacity constraint or that capacity factor also into your consideration before deciding a better product mix. So, let us move into a multiple choice question. A firm planned production for 2 models sharing a chamber cap at 120 hours monthly. Model X earned a unit contribution 150 and require 3 hours. Model Y earns a unit contribution 110 and require 2 hours. How should management distribute resources to maximize profit? Here you have 2 products. The first product, unit contribution margin is 150 and it required 3 hours, which means per hour contribution margin is $50. When it comes to product Y or second product, 110 is your contribution margin per unit and which required 2 hours, which means 55 is your contribution margin per hour. So, now let us move into options. Option A, model X exclusively because individual unit contribution margin is higher. Option B, model Y exclusively because it processes more total standalone unit. Option C, prioritize X because it maximizes absolute plant utilization parameters. Option D, prioritize model Y because it utilizes the scarce bonding chamber more efficiently per unit. So, we can see that option D is the right answer here. If you are looking into your resource constraint, you have a resource constraint here. So, the hours per contribution per hour is higher in product Y. So, option D is the right answer. This is about today's discussion. If you have any doubt or you need any clarification on any of these topics, please ask me on the comment section. Thank you for watching this video.